Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan for an Inside the Birds midweek mashup. Not a whole lot of mashup stuff, not too many transactions, a little bit of injuries. So we're going to get in on that. We'll talk, of course, recap our final thoughts on the Eagles and Cowboys. And then obviously we've got some time here because it becomes a huge game now, Adam. Given the tie record standpoint with the Cowboys in the division, and then of course with the Niners now, as we talk right now, the Niners are in control of the top seed. Still a lot of football left to play, but knowing how the Eagles schedule can get very light in the last 3 weeks, this game against Seattle, Adam, it's huge.
Huge for Seattle. I mean, they're with Green Bay losing, they're right in it. This is a major game for them. It's
Yeah.
huge for both teams. This is really now, of course, Tommy DeVito could have a lot to say about that. I was going to say this is a last tough game, but Tommy DeVito all of a sudden shown that he could be a competent NFL quarterback. But for the Giants, but the bottom line is, yeah, you've got two teams kind of struggling right now. Seahawks have not played well the last month. They've got it. We'll get into the quarterback situation there, which is injury related. And then look, the Eagles in a situation where they've got this little tailspin here. Sky's falling. Everyone's bailing. Not everyone, but a lot of people are bailing. Though they're still 10-3. They still have a good record. But look, we've got some really good information here. I've talked I talked to like 4 or 5 people who've watched the Eagles tape the last month or so. I just started making some more calls this week because I want to see them having this 2-game tailspin where they look really bad from pillar to post.
Mm-hmm.
You start wondering, okay, is this real? Again, it's only the first 2-game losing streak for Hurts since the 21 season, but no one's really playing particularly well. So what are the answers? Well, we're going to give you some tonight.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that. By the way, if you're going to refer to Tommy DeVito here, you're going to have to respectfully refer to him as Tommy Cutlets. I'm here
I
in
love that
Jersey.
one.
Yeah,
I
it's
love that
great.
one.
It's a good story for the Giants, who have sort of quietly, by the way, crept themselves back into respectability. I mean, they're 5-8. The record stinks, but when you saw how they started and the fact that they're on a third string quarterback who nobody really liked, the fact that they're playing a little bit better might make those last 3 weeks a little bit interesting. If you're an Eagles fan, hopefully not, but it might make it a little bit interesting.
How about this one? They're technically from a record standpoint, they're only one half game out in the loss column. I know this is not Major League Baseball because they have 8 losses. The Packers have 7, but
Mm-hmm.
remember now, who did the Giants just beat? Those Packers. So they're very much in it. Look. I know the NFC is not very good overall. I mean, it's very top heavy. Then it really drops off.
Right.
But look, the Eagles now they drop from number 1 to number 5. If they win out, they're going to need obviously the Giants to lose one. Excuse me, not the San Francisco Giants, the Niners to lose, so they can get the number 1 seed. But it's all about the division now,
Yep.
and with the Cowboys, that's obviously in their sights. I mean, I know Sirianni just want to talk about that. I know it's about this game and all that. That's fine, but they're going to have an opportunity to bounce back against a defense in Seattle Monday night in Seattle, a defense that has shown some vulnerability of late.
Yeah, it has. And I do think that, Adam, I think that you're hearing a lot of panic, a lot of sky is falling, a lot of this is not the Eagles team that I thought it was. And I got to tell you, having watched the tape, and it just reinforced what I felt after the game, that the Eagles are not 20 points worse than the Cowboys. I'm not even sure they're a worse team. I mean, they're 1-1 in 2 games. So they turned the ball over 3 times, which is problematic because they have had a turnover issue this year, but they don't turn the ball over 3 times frequently. And some of it is flukish. A lot of what I saw Quentin Michael brought this up in Q&A. So I hope everybody checks this out. The Q&A show this week, it was really good. It was very tactical. With some all 22 stuff. Q&A said it's hard to see it in the box score and then just watching it with the naked eye. But there are actually things the Eagles did defensively against the Cowboys that were way better than what they had done against some other teams this year, including the 49ers. Did they make some mistakes? Sure. We'll get into that. But some of the stuff that just makes you scratch your head type, I can't believe this guy's wide open, busted coverage, or you don't know what you're doing
Yeah,
stuff. Not necessarily as much of an issue in this game, as we've seen in the past. We'll talk a little bit, but we'll talk about it. And then offensively, they moved the ball fine against the Dallas Cowboys. Somebody reached out to me because we talked about the Cowboys defense getting lit up when they play good teams this year, and sarcastically said something like, "You still think Cowboys defense is overrated?"
Yeah.
I still think the Cowboys defense can be beaten, and the Eagles showed you can move the ball against it. They just turned the ball over 3 times, and that's not going to happen every time. But the Eagles averaged more than 6 yards per play, and they were running the ball and passing the ball pretty well against a good defensive front. So to me, again, I watched the tape and I think it's just a bad game, but not like the 49ers game. Not, totally different class of opponent, I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, the bottom line is here when you look at their situation, they did some good things on offense, which we'll get into. Defensively, here's the thing: they didn't give up a touchdown in the second half, but then of course they were down 24-6 in the first half.
Right.
We see this a lot with teams. It's really hard to keep up that pace for an entire game. But okay, look, they wound up losing by 20, self-inflicted wounds, penalties, also just really inexcusable, some of them. And then the fumbles, and Sirianni was asked about it on Tuesday. The challenge of when you're going to the ground and get punched out. Well, look, here's the thing: things can't happen. I know he wasn't trying to make excuses; he's just explaining the difficulty of it. But the bottom line is, can't have that happen because you're ruining drives. But they're absolute drive killers, and you can't fumble the ball 3 times and expect to even be close.
Right.
Not with that kind of offense and their defense. Look, their defense overall is obviously fallen off for a while now. This is not anything new. But at least, hey, they didn't give a touchdown in the second half. They could be, I'm not going to say they're going to build on that, but at least they know, okay, they settled down a little bit. But the bottom line is, any chance they had to get back in the game after the beautifully designed fake punt, it just got ruined by too many mistakes.
Yeah, too many mistakes and a couple of backbreaking plays there in the third quarter that we'll get into from the Cowboys. But you're right, you don't make those mistakes. This game could be anybody's game. I want a real quick from you. If you were to power rank the league, where would you put the Eagles at this point? Have you thought about that at all?
No, but I'll give you a quick one. So right now, I go Niners 1,
Mm-hmm.
Ravens 2.
Mm-hmm.
Tyreek Hill gets hurt, they probably would have won that game. He came back late, the Dolphins game against the Titans, but hey, they lost. I would say Dallas is slightly better because again,
I would agree. I would agree.
the Eagles were living dangerously for a while. The players were talking about after some of those wins, like they know that they got to play better, and then they got their comeuppance, so to speak, with 2 bad losses. But the rest of the season's ahead of them. So where would I put them? I'll go Niners 1, Ravens 2, Miami 3 reluctantly after a loss like that. But again, they lost their center kind of one for the season due to an ACL. That's a problem. And I would go probably Dallas after that, then the Eagles. The Eagles are better than Detroit. Detroit's defense is good enough. They're another team that was living dangerously early in the season, and now you're seeing that they're not quite as good as they probably thought they were. Good team, certainly a fun team to watch, but they're not good enough. And look, it's a very mediocre league this year. It's from top to bottom, they're not what you call elite teams.
Right.
The Niners are really good, but I wouldn't call them elite like the Eagles were last year. I think the Eagles were, if you really looked at it, the Eagles probably coming into the Chiefs game, the Super Bowl game, were better. But you saw what happened, a bunch of bad grass and a bunch of strange things. But hey, they lost. Chiefs
Yeah.
beat them fair and square.
Yeah.
But and the Chiefs, by the way, they're falling off right now. Man, Andy Reid going after the refs and
Yeah.
after
That
the
was.
game. Yeah.
I mean,
And
man, you gotta be careful how hard you defend somebody who's clearly lining up at it, but not even close. I mean, he was clearly lined up offside. So a little surprising there. Frustration
yeah.
on his side on Patrick Mahomes. So I think I would agree with you. I would have the Niners 1. I would have the Ravens 2. You're a little higher on Miami than me. They're a little inconsistent at times. So I would probably put Dallas 3, and then then you get to the Eagles, Miami, and Kansas City, and on any given Sunday, any one of those teams could look really good or not so great. I still think I would put the Eagles over Miami, but I might even put Kansas City over both those teams because I think I think the worst is behind Kansas City, but we'll see. The point is, once you get past the first 3, which feel pretty solid right now, it gets to be a little bit of a mixed bag. So that's what the next
Yeah.
5-6 weeks are for.
And of course, the Eagles beat the Dolphins handily many weeks ago, and things have changed since then.
Yeah.
It's always about where the teams are. It's not that okay. Well, they beat them, so they're better than that. It doesn't work that
Right.
way. It's where you are right now.
Right.
Uh, Particularly when you do power rankings, you don't base anything off the first 7 or 8 weeks. It's the entire season. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's kind of I knew it because it's Dallas. Sky's falling, and fans hate to give Dallas credit, and I totally get that. Growing up here in this area,
Hmm.
but it's fascinating to see how people are jumping off. But the reality is, look, the Eagles aren't as good as last season, as we told everyone to start the season. We didn't. What we did say also, the record's still probably going to be pretty good. They have a good roster, but it's not as good as last season, and a lot of coaching changes. Even more, I'm doing a piece for Pro Football Network just on why the Eagles are struggling. It's not any one particular thing,
Hmm.
but man, when you look at all the coaching changes, they're even more than I thought. An adjustment, and 6 coaching changes on defense in terms of promotions and departures. That's a lot.
Yeah, listen, we try to be thorough and explore every possible angle in the months leading up to the regular season. And I know we spent a good deal of time saying, hey, the roster can look good. It's not maybe as good as last year, can look good, but don't discount what happens when you have major coaching changes. It wasn't just one coordinator, it was both coordinators. It was a linebackers coach. It was two new defensive backs coach and a new defensive play caller, and then also the quarterbacks coach. We talked about what happened when Carson Wentz lost John DeFilippo, and then it was Press Taylor and the difference there. And now it's not Brian Johnson. He's there, but he's not the position coach. It's Alex Tanney. Alex Tanney, unlike John DeFilippo, doesn't have 10 to 12 years of coaching experience and having been an offensive coordinator before. We said all these things will eventually in some way manifest themselves. Some, it could be positive, could be negative, could be a little bit of both, and we're seeing the results of that as we get deeper into this season. What we're also going to see on Inside the Birds this week is Greg Cosell and Clay Harbor do their weekly show. It's Inside the Tape. It'll be out Thursday. It's going to be great. Make sure you check that out. And of course, Eagles Seahawks, our Inside the Birds pregame live show will be Monday night, not Sunday, obviously Monday night. It's a Monday night game from 5 to 7 o'clock p.m. We will have, speaking of John DeFilippo, our weekly segment with him for our Patreon members. We had a great Ask ITB live stream that we've been doing about every 2 weeks with our Patreon members as well. So if you want to subscribe, you should subscribe. It's a great additional content. It's patreon.com/inside the bird. So a lot of really good meaty content, a lot of X's and O's this week on the Inside the Birds platform. Speaking of frustrating, because I know, excuse me, frustrating. I know Eagles fans are frustrating right now. They're frustrated right now. Losing sucks. But you know what also sucks is finding good tickets online. And that's why you need Game Time, the fast, easy way to buy tickets for sporting events, concerts, and theater shows near you. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Right now on the Game Time app. Adam's got it. I got it. You're 2 taps away from getting tickets to see the Eagles, the Flyers, Sixers, concerts, shows, all of that, comedy acts. And the best part is Game Time offers event cancellation protection, even job loss protection. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. Their all-in prices show you the total up front, and you can see the view from your seat. I know it's very important for a lot of people. You know exactly what to expect at checkout. Game Time is obsessed with helping you save money. They've got their zone deals that let you pick the section, while Game Time picks the seat for the best savings. And then there's the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section in a row for less money, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code BIRDS, BIRDS, for $20 off your first purchase. That's terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code BIRDS for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right. We keep saying this. Once again, on Tuesday, a big workout day for teams across the league. The Eagles have decided not to work anybody out on Tuesday. Kind of fascinating. I mean, you can argue, well, what spot would you work a guy out at? Sometimes we've seen the Eagles just kick tires on players just to see what's out there. It's to me, it's Adam, it's become more surprising when they don't work somebody out than when they do work somebody out.
Well, to me, it's more about your practice squad and emergencies now because you'll have Shaq Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go forward with Cunningham, Morrow, and Leonard is the three. Off the ball linebackers, Van Sermon is the fourth, but really only in special teams. And we'll get into the injury situation. Safety is a little bit dicey right now. Depth is that's always been the position for me this season.
Yep.
Getting that extra veteran safety just in case. Now, Logan Ryan signed with the Niners, so that's over. And people had asked us about that. He signed, I think, like a week ago. So there's not, as you said, there's not much else. They have enough receivers. They don't need them anymore. Tight ends, they have too many of them, or enough of them right now that Goddard's back. Running back, they don't want to play Penny. They got their three that they use. D tackle, they're still. Contavious Street, unfortunately, had a pectoral injury. I hope he's okay with the Falcons. But they still have enough. Now that everyone's pretty healthy, they're good there. Yeah, so you're right. They have pretty much what they're going to go forward with, but it's not really much about that. It's more about, well, if someone gets hurt, what's your answer? What happens? That's when you worry about one position right now. It's safety. Cornerback, they have what they have. It's not great in terms of depth, but they have guys who can play, and it is what it is. But the big one there to me is safety, and it's kind of injury related right now.
Well, you feel like maybe the flex helps the Eagles out because by giving them an additional day and all the way up until night, maybe there's a chance that Reed Blankenship, who was evaluated for a concussion in this past game against the Cowboys, maybe if he is in the concussion protocol, we'll find out that more about that later today going forward. Then maybe the extra day is a chance for him to clear the protocol and be able to play because they could.
Good point.
They're hurting if they don't have him. Obviously, Sidney Brown would then have to start with Kevin Byard. I can't say Byard's playing great. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then your third safety, right, is now you might call up. Remember, you don't have Justin Evans. He just went out for the year, so you really don't have a third safety option that you feel comfortable with.
I mean, no one with meaningful playing experience. I mean, Tristan McCollum has barely played as an NFL player. Mekhi Garner has had some snaps at safety. I mean, they could do it in a pinch, but that's Josiah Scott could do it probably if you needed him to. But yeah, they're a little bit thin as they get to the end of the season in the playoffs. So that's something to keep a look at. Take a look at. But bottom line is right now,
real quick, I just didn't want to forget this point. You've probably seen more Seattle or no more. They used to be a pretty heavy 12 personnel team. I don't know if they are anymore because they have Jackson Smith and Jigba. Yeah. However, no matter what, everybody runs a little bit of 12 at some point, right?
Of course.
If the Eagles don't have a third safety that they're comfortable with, they can't play their big nickel, which they usually use against 12 personnel. So not having Reed Blankenship would force them into alternative packages and again put guys on the field in positions that they really haven't played a lot this year.
And we've seen that before. That's not ideal. That's why we've talked about, just adding a veteran safety for depth or insurance if needed. So we'll see what happens there.
Mm-hmm. All right. You were saying.
No, we'll see what happens.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we'll see if they do anything. Right now they haven't. Now, again, as you said, we should mention they have one extra day, and teams usually work out players Monday or Tuesday, but they do have that extra day. And today there is actually they're not they wouldn't practice today. It's Thursday because the practice week is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we'll see what happens.
Yes, that's true. So we really won't find out more about the concussion protocol until Thursday. Good point. Thank you. As for the Seahawks, Geno Smith has been dealing with a groin injury. Now, this happened late in practice last week. That's why Drew Lock started. And I think that they were saying Geno was sort of a game time decision or they were going to take it all the way up, but Lock had to start instead of Geno Smith. But Adam, what told me that he may be probable or more likely to play on Monday night is not only do you, again, have the extra day, but it sounded like they thought there was a chance he might be able to have played this past Sunday.
So what happened was after he got hurt late in Thursday's practice, they weren't as concerned about his availability Thursday night as they were Friday when he got treatment and they looked at him, the day after. Mm-hmm. That's when they knew he was very questionable for the game. He did work out for the game, but he just didn't. You got to be careful with these groin injuries. They could linger. And the guy, Geno had obviously his breakout season 10 years into his career. So yeah, having the extra day we'll have to see. And Drew Lock, I got to tell you, I know they wound up losing by 12. He gave them a chance to compete. It's their defense that let them down. Their defense had some issues in that game, but Locke, who's had major accuracy issues over his career, that's why he no longer is a starter. He made some good throws in that game, and I was like, okay, he showed me something. And the first touchdown to Metcalf, I was like, wow, he actually got it down there. So
Yeah,
he's anyone with a strong arm is always dangerous, but with him, it's about accuracy.
100%. All right, so that really wraps up the early injury situation throughout the week for this Monday night game. We'll get into a recap of Eagles Cowboys, and listen, it might be painful, but we got to go through it. We got good stuff on this. I think people really got to key in on what we're told and what we've seen in the All 22. Before we get into that, we got to welcome back some new partners, Adam. Santa Baby, the season for a fresh cut is finally here with the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. That's right. The leaders in below the waist grooming have just launched their 5th generation lawnmower to help you avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Take care of your special snowflake and watch your South Pole shine like never before. Get the best stocking stuffer of all by going to manscaped.com and using the promo code ITB20 for 20% off and free shipping. Mrs. Claus will thank you. Everybody knows the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is the crown jewel of the holidays. It's got the skin-safe technology. It's a lifesaver. It's known for reducing nicks and cuts on the old Santa sack. So don't forget the Manscaped Beard Hedger Pro Kit and Handyman Electric Face Shaver also to cover all of your facial hair needs and get rid of those nasty icicles from your nose and ears with the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose and ear hair trimmer. And take care of your chestnuts with Manscaped Boxers 2.0. Hey, there's even the Shears 3.0 nail grooming kit. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code ITB20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use promo code ITB20. Say ho, ho, ho to a well-groomed mistletoe with Manscaped. All right. Well done, Adam, maintaining your decorum through that read there.
I didn't know because I haven't heard the read. I know the listeners Q&A went crazy. They loved Jason Avant's read, but yeah, this one because it's been a while, and I know that they're a little risque, so I was like, oh, okay, but it's all good. We like the entertainment. We like having it back.
We do. And I will vouch their boxers are really comfortable. I gotta tell you, they're very, very comfortable.
Nice.
They're stretchy, like like everything's stretchy now, like I forget what the sort of dry fit type material. It's really good. All right. Let's talk about the Eagles versus the Cowboys. Let's get into the offense. I want to start with Jalen Hurts because we're not going to spend, I don't think, a ton of time more on Hurts than the pass offense, the concept and everything. After watching the game, I thought Jalen Hurts actually played pretty well, Adam. He completed close to 70% of his passes, and that includes the fact that 4 or 5 of those passes that were really nicely thrown were dropped, right? So I didn't see the same amount of just bailing out of the pocket immediately as we saw the week before. There were some really, if you remember where he climbed the pocket on the first or second drive and hit Devontae Smith over the middle for 30 yards, that was a beautiful throw. And then the one he put in A.J. Brown's hands that were not caught was a beautiful throw. So I thought his ball placement in this game under duress at times was pretty darn good. Like to me, he's not the reason. Of course he fumbled. So if we're going to talk about as a runner, we're going to say that's a big part of it. Just like the Super Bowl, you were great, but you fumbled. It hurts. But he himself, his ball placement, his accuracy, his decision-making, I didn't have as much of an issue with.
So the drops. I mean, the one on the right sideline, A.J. Brown's got to catch it. That ball, great throw. I mean, come on, man. This can't happen. He's a great player, but those kind of things, they crush you. The Eagles are not nearly as good as last year. They have a very small margin of error right now.
Yes, that's fair.
And when you get a chance to make a play downfield and you win, there's not you beat the guy not bad enough, but you got a little room and the pass is great right there and it goes through your hands. This one, I don't even know if he touched that one. It just ran through his hands.
It was weird. It went right through. Yeah.
Yeah. So that can't happen. And Hurts made some good throws in that game. You saw the design runs. You saw some of you saw a couple draws. So that was good to see. Now I know people had asked us this, and we'll ask Jason and Cosell on Monday night show. we've seen this throughout the season occasionally. Like he looks like he's got daylight, but he just goes down. It's almost like they've conditioned him not to take contact sometimes. Just go down.
Mhm.
So we saw this against New England, right? In,
Yes.
in the game one, and we've seen this occasionally. Like, wow, I thought he could have got more yards, but he decided to go down. So we'll ask them from the coaching tape if there's anything that they see.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. So that's on Jalen. Now, let's have a talk about the pass offense based on some people we've spoken to who've seen the tape. Um, I think here's my feeling on it through the eyes of some other people too. Um, First of all, there's a difference between play calling and play design. Play calling has been questionable at times this year, but I also think that's been impacted by the flow of the game. And again, if you're turning the ball over and you're down already 14-3, then it's hard to be committed to the run. It's hard to get some of your best run games going on when you feel like you have to pass your way back into a game. That was the case here. But I think play design comes up a lot because the Eagles are very married to a lot of their 2x2s, 3x1 sets. Like, where guys are going to line up, and they have good enough personnel that they can win. Like, you can win on a play that the opponent pretty much knows what you're going to do, but you have good talent. You have AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith. These guys can beat man. These guys can sit down in the zone. Dallas Goedert can make yards after contact. So you'll they are running similar concepts, and they don't. I would say the feedback at least I get, I think you get too, and watching, is that they don't really do a whole lot differently than they did maybe a year before. So you can say that's a little bit stagnant, a little bit stale, and maybe they need to switch things up a little bit. But I think you could also argue that if guys hold on to the ball, if guys execute better, then we're not having this conversation also. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and they're not great. They're one of the people we spoke with this week said that when they watch the Eagles coaching tape, they're not really good with their 2x2 set. Um, it just it just doesn't look visually. They just don't look comfortable in it. They're just not. It just has not worked as well as maybe last year. We don't have stats. We're talking to someone who has watched the Eagles tape just about every week, and like a lot of these people we speak with, they'll if they're critical, they're critical. If they're complimentary, they're complimentary. This is just one thing that this person saw is that the 2x2 sets just don't. They're just not as good as you'd like. But in this game, though, Hurts made throws. I mean, yeah, I didn't feel. Now again, we'll talk to Flip John later this week. We'll see what Flip says. We'll see what Clint Cosell say when they watch the tape. So I haven't talked to John yet this week about it. But other people we spoke with said that it looked better overall, but it's still not good enough. Look, the turnovers crushed them, but can it be anywhere near last year's level when they were absolutely dominant special? That's there are a lot of things that you have to look at. Is the line blocking as well as last year? Probably not. Are they running the ball as well as last year? They definitely are not. Now, the odd part about this game is that they would mix the run in the third quarter. I'm like, why are they running the football? It was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
They would pass then mix the run, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I guess they're trying to they're trying to diversify their offense. That's fine, but they're going to need points here. And Swift had some nice runs. His biggest run was only a 7-yarder. I know people are sick of seeing Gainwell. He ran right up the middle for 11 yards. I would have liked to see Swift get the ball more, particularly in the pass game where none of their backs were targeted. I thought that was odd. I know
Mm-hmm.
Sirianni defended. I know he's talked about this before, but he's asked Tuesday about why other pass targets didn't get the ball, and he's like, "Look, it goes through those three guys, and he did add, look, the other guys are good players, but it goes. We've known everyone know through day one that it goes through this Brown, Smith, and Goddard. But then here's the other thing is I'd like to see Goddard be more of a factor. They were right on him. He had the nice 15-yarder, but it's like a couple of them, they were right on him, the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you got to free him up more to get those space plays that he's so good with.
Yeah, they looked like a couple of times they tried to get the ball to him. And again, this goes back to maybe running the same play a little bit too much, right? Where the RPO where Dallas comes across the line of scrimmage and he either becomes a lead blocker for Jalen or he leaks out and they're able to pop it to him. They tried that a couple of times, and Dallas, which plays a lot of man, they had that, as you mentioned, they were right there on top of them. In fact, on the second drive, they tried that, and Jalen scrambled to his left and he was trying to get Goddard, but the coverage was there. So then Devontae Smith was running 10 yards behind it, the same kind of route to the outside. And Jalen made such a nice throw and Devontae reached out and he went to the ground. And if you remember, he I don't know if you call it a drop. I mean, he sort of
I know.
cradled it, went to the ground, didn't catch it. They call it incomplete. And I thought, man, like that's you're Devontae Smith. That Jalen just makes a really nice sort of crossbody throw going to his left on the run to you at the left sideline. You got to catch that. So yeah, I do think again. So same thing with the run up the middle, the design run. They're starting to do that thing where they motion DeAndre Swift out, which takes the one. Dallas is going to play a lot of man. So if there's two linebackers, one of those linebackers is going to go follow DeAndre Swift, right? So then now you only have one linebacker. So Jason Kelsey pulls out to that linebacker, covers him up, and Jalen just takes off and run. And it worked the first two times. Then they tried it a third time, and this time Dallas was able to, they knew it was coming, so they were able to swarm through it quicker. So you're doing that well. Why don't you try having a different puller next time, or just showing the defense something they haven't seen from that RPO or that for design run so that it's not predictable.
Right, and that's what I was talking about, the diversity of plays. Yeah,
Right.
I'd like to see that. That's the thing, is the predictability, which we've heard from some other people this week. It's just changing things up, just change things up a little bit, and
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Before we get the defense here, because they have a little extra time here. We saw some really cool plays coming out of the bye, the Kansas City game, when they had Swift line up in that stack and they ran the ghost motion and handed off to him. It's a beautiful play. Just stuff like that.
Yep.
And again, I understand that those three guys have to get the football, but man, Swift is so dynamic in the pass game. We're just not seeing that. It's been a while, and it hasn't quite been what we thought anyway, to be honest with
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, Julio Jones is here. He's not, you wonder how that's going over with him, not really seeing any targets. Quez Watkins has come back. It does feel like every time Olamide Zaccheaus is in the game. Now, this one was on a punt fake, but still, he was wide open. But it just seems like
you.
every time he's in the game, a play is made there.
There
Last
you
thing
go.
on, yeah. Last thing on offense, Adam, and I think this goes back to the concept of play calling versus play design. It's 4th down and 8. I personally don't think Sirianni should have gone for it there. You're down by 14. You have a chance to kick the field goal that puts you down by 11. So that if you need 2 touchdowns anyway, at least you go ahead, right? If you get 2 touchdowns, then you're ahead if you kick the field goal there and get it. But they decided to go for it on 4th and 8. And you got to know 4th and 8, they're coming after you, right? They're going to speed up your quarterback's clock. So there was no chance for Jalen Hurts to be able to throw that ball for a 1st down. So you got to self-scout and say, hey, we got to know that situation a little better and have something better in the bag for that.
Yeah, I want to know who the hot receiver was. Because I asked Jason and Greg if they noticed that. We'll talk to them Monday night. But I'm just very curious, because that's what you're looking for. Okay, someone's got to be the alert to get the football there when you're getting blitzed. So that was really disappointing. That to me was crushing when that happened for their offense. It's a shame, as you said. If we move on here, they did some really good things in that game, but they also fumbles are inexcusable. The penalties, this is what happens when you're scuffling.
Yep.
You make a lot of mistakes, and I know it drives Sirianni up a wall. We've noticed that when he's talked about this kind of stuff, not so much in this press conference on Tuesday, but since he's been here, he's talked about being maniacal about mistakes and repping it and coaching it. They got a lot to get through this week, because this is, you want to stem this tide here of negativity of what's going on in terms of performance, and it's got to be they got to correct this stuff, and I'm sure they're going to try to.
100%. All right, well, let's go take a relook at the defense. Before we do that, hey, I've been saying this for a while. It feels like winter is here. It's getting really cold now. It's getting dark really soon. Everyone's out. I was in so much traffic today just because everybody's out getting their holiday shopping done. No one has time to prepare and make meals. That's why we love HelloFresh. They deliver farm fresh food with pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes right to our doorstep. No more wasting time at the grocery store, because America's #1 meal kit helps make home cooking easy, efficient, and affordable. With HelloFresh, the shopping is already done. The perfect amount of ingredients arrive with step-by-step recipe cards. Doesn't get more efficient than that. Plus, HelloFresh saves you time and money. It's 25% less expensive than takeout, so you get a home-cooked meal without digging deep into your wallet. And do not forget about the all-important taste and selection. Chicken, shrimp, stir fry, seafood, meat, vegetarian meals. They got everything. So go to HelloFresh.com/50Eagles and use that promo code 50Eagles, 50 Eagles, for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50Eagles and use the promo code 50Eagles, all one word, for 50% off plus free shipping. Act now for America's #1 meal kit. All right. We might start to sound like a broken record, but we really have to talk about this. As we talk about this Eagles defense, I tell you, when you rewatch it, when you watch a tape, there is such a difference between watching Dallas's front four try to get after Jalen Hurts and the Eagles' front four trying to get after Dak Prescott. Dallas looks ferocious. The Eagles look like pretty good, but not ferocious. There's something missing. Tyron Smith owned Josh Sweat basically for the second time. On the other edge, Hassan Reddick got 2 sacks, but like that was sporadic. It wasn't like he was constantly applying pressure. And I would say, other than the Fletcher Cox sack that led to the Jalen Carter touchdown,
Cool.
which was good. And by the way, he manhandled Zach Martin on that. So
Awesome. I mean,
had a
that
good
was
year. Yeah,
that Fletcher. That was a man's play. That was
that was
awesome. We pushed him back, and Carter, Johnny on the spot to return it. Yeah, but as Cosell said when he's told these stories before, sacks are individual plays. It's like, okay, if the guy plays 60 plays, he had 2 sacks. That's nice, but what do you do on the other 58 plays? You always have to remember that.
sure.
When you grade tape or you watch, because if you're just box score analyzing, you don't really know. I'm not saying Reddick didn't play well. That's not the point. The point is, it's 2 sacks, but where is the true pressure consistently from the front? They didn't have it. Dak was occasionally they made a move, and you saw he's we talked about this in the pregame show. He's thrown much better on the run this season. In fact, he's been more mobile. But I thought the one thing I'll say about this defense was not only is it way better than in the Niner game. The offense put them in a tough spot with the turnovers, but it wasn't like, oh my God, they're giving up 50 points here. They're not stopping them.
Right.
Dak didn't rip them apart like a lot of us thought, including myself. I thought Dak might have 4 or 5 touchdowns based on the way their secondary had been playing. So they were a little better this game, but again, they had ways to go.
Yeah, I would say you're right. He was more surgical. I was surprised by how much Dallas decided to run the ball early on. That was an interesting tactic.
Yeah.
I was also surprised about the Eagles predominantly being in a 4-man front for most of the game, not a 5-man front. It's almost as if the Eagles came into the game knowing, I mean, Dallas had been throwing the ball on everybody for 5 straight weeks. And the Eagles basically said, we're not going to waste our time with a 5-man front thinking they're going to run. We're going to be in our 4-man front, give a little extra help to our interior level, by not having 5 defensive linemen out there, have a little more help on the interior. But then that may have made Dallas turn around and say, okay, you're not going to have 5 defensive line. You're not going to make our offensive line have one-on-ones, and we're going to get some double teams up the middle. And they did. Now, Dallas didn't run the ball explosively. They had a couple of nice runs, but they ran the ball enough to set up some makeable third downs, which, again, when you're not getting a great amount of pressure, which for whatever reason the Eagles aren't doing. And by the way, one of those reasons is Dallas's offensive line is really good. Like, we have to keep this in context. This is good versus good here. And Dallas's offensive line is really rounding into form, especially the interior of it. So they did well.
Tyler Smith has been like this revelation. So many people in scouting around the NFL like crushed him. Oh, he's too raw. He out of Tulsa. He can't play guard. He's only left tackle. And he was drafted to be Tyron Smith's eventual replacement. But here's the thing. Tyron Smith has been relatively healthy this season,
Yeah,
where he wasn't last season when Tyler Smith filled in for him. Tyler Smith has shown to be a damn good guard. I got to ask some people, is he Pro Bowl worthy? That's how much we've heard he's played well. I just wonder if he's in the Pro Bowl conversation. But the bottom line is, you're right. The line is playing really, really well. The guys talked about that in the pregame show prior to the game last week. It was going to be a challenge for them, and it certainly was. But this was not like the oh my gosh, the Eagles defense can't play anymore type of game. It was just a little weird. I do want to mention
Mm-hmm.
Ringo playing as much as he did. Boy, that was, I mean, 22 snaps. That was a little
Snaps.
rough. That was a little rough. But the way it works in the National Football League, if you practice well, the coaches sometimes have a feeling that you can go out there.
Right.
But oops,
Yeah,
wasn't
they
great.
had that was also because when Reed Blankenship went out, Byard could not be the tight end coverage guy anymore. He had to be a deep
Okay,
safety with Sidney Brown. So they could
gotcha.
remember they couldn't play the big nickel at that point.
Yeah,
So they had to move Bradbury in to be the tight end guy at times. So then they needed an outside replacement. Now, to your point, that used to be Job, right? Josh Job would come in on the outside. They must have seen something in practice, as you just mentioned. Good nugget there. That they must have liked what they've seen from Kelly Ringo, so they put him out there. But as we say all the time, being on the scout team and then being against the Cowboys, a Super Bowl contender on Sunday night, is a whole different animal. And I've never seen somebody have a DPI and a face mask on the same play. And that was a pretty big play right there. That was crucial because it helped set up a touchdown, I believe, right after that for Dallas.
yeah. Sirianni said in passing on Tuesday, he goes, "Hey, he practiced well." So I'm like, okay, that would get the guy out there. I,
Yep.
I get that part of it, but it was look. We've said all summer it wasn't a good summer for him. I mean, it was not a good training camp for him. Now he's a very good special teams player. It certainly has value.
Yeah.
But as they learned with Zach McPherson, and this is supposed to be that McPherson played on defense, unfortunately, towards Achilles. Eventually, when you're a fourth round pick, you've got to contribute on defense. And they tried it. It didn't work quite as well as they had hoped. We'll see. We'll see what they do going forward here. But Josh Jobe did not have one snap on defense. That floored me. I mean that not to even get one. Wow. Okay,
Right.
that's where that is.
Right. So without their ability to generate pressure, you saw that in the second half, Sean Desai had to maybe do some things that he may not ordinarily do, right? And one of them was that cover zero. He threw an all-out blitz at Dak in the third quarter, right after the field goal. So they were within two touchdowns at that point. I think it was 24, 14, or 13 or something like that. It was,
13, I think.
Cox
Yeah.
had the strip. They get the touchdown there. And then what happens is Dak picks it up and makes a beautiful throw. I don't blame Sidney Brown at all. He was behind Ferguson, but it's not like he was blown away. But that was an amazing and connection between Dak and Ferguson for like what 32 yards, right? Against a
Mm-hmm.
zero blitz. Now the Eagles are terrible at blitzing. All the numbers say every time they blitz, the quarterback carves them apart. They have like over 100 something passer rating against the blitz. But Adam, when you're not getting home on your front four, you can't blame the coordinator for saying, "All right, I got to pick and choose a spot where I send everybody." Like that's
I know.
so. Conversely, on the second drive, you probably remember this. All right, on the second drive, the Cowboys are facing 3rd and 9. All right, it's 7-0 Cowboys. They get the ball back. It's 3rd and 9. That's a down where you need pressure. You need your front four because Dak has to throw it far to get a first down. They're empty, 2 by 3. No running back kept in. No tight end kept in. All right. That's almost saying, please come blitz me because I have no protection. If you throw a huge pressure at him, what are you going to do? You're going to speed up his clock and he has to throw the ball and probably be short of the sticks. Well, Desai
Mm-hmm.
opted to play zone there. He was in a dime 4-1-6. And what happened was he had too much time to throw. And if you have that much time to throw and you're empty, CeeDee Lamb went inside Roby and then outside, beat him badly, caught the ball for 22 yards. Like you can't give up 22 yards on 3rd and 9.
No,
But I
I
but I
know.
also think the coordinator's got to do something. Like you have to speed up his clock the same way the Cowboys did it to Jalen when he was empty on 4th down. Right? They made him throw
That's
the
the
ball
issue.
immediately. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to jump in there. That is the issue with this defense this season. Yes, they were really good for like first 5 or 6 weeks. Actually, whenever the Miami game was the last dominant game they had,
Mm-hmm.
it's been this progression or regression, I should say. And the big thing is they're not making it like I always talk about pressure numbers, but I talked about the previous week. You could throw the pressure numbers out there, empty pressure numbers, which is a scouting term. They're not making the quarterback move off the spot. They're just not.
Right.
It's just not. They have to do a better job of that. They got a little bit of pressure, which is why they didn't give up 400 yards in the game passing. They gave up, whatever it was, 280, whatever the heck it was. But the bottom line is the science coaches, they have to figure out a better way.
Yeah.
They've got to get more pressure. Just make the quarterback move. And uh, Geno Smith, we'll see who starts Monday night. Or Drew Lock, obviously, if the Eagles would love it to be Drew Lock. But if it's Geno Smith, they're going to be playing with a groin injury. Geno, the big problem for the first down of his careers is he was hesitant sometimes to throw the football. He wouldn't pull the trigger, indecisive. That's perfect for a defense that's not playing great right now. You could disguise, there's certain things you can do. But the bottom line is that's that game. They got to learn from this game. It's got to be better.
Yeah. And last point on that, because I asked Quentin Michael about it because I was confused. I said, Quentin, why would an offense, the Cowboys in this case, come empty on 3rd and 9? Because even if you're not blitzed, all it takes is one guy to beat you in a front four rush, because the quarterback has no protection, no running back, no tight end. He has to throw the ball quickly. And it's hard to throw the ball 10 yards or more when you have to throw quickly. And his quote to me was, any team that's in 3rd and 9, that goes empty on 3rd and 9, basically means they don't respect the other team's defense. And I was like, wow. Ooh. When's the last time you heard that the Eagles pass rush was not respected? I mean, and it's a good point. You almost rarely see a team in empty on 3rd and 9 or 3rd and long and 4th and long.
I mean, you're right, because it's an obvious pass situation. You're going empty.
Yeah, no protection.
Yeah, I don't know what it's not that Reddick has been obviously very good this season, but Sweaty's been down lately. Mm-hmm. The two kids in the tackle, Carter is obviously having a terrific rookie season. Davis is not a pass rusher, but Hargrave's only one player, but we know he was his pass rush specialist. Maybe that's part of it. But from a schematic standpoint, they've got to get their stunts going better. They just got to. Again, we'll talk to the guys Monday night about this. They gotta try something else because it's not good enough.
Yeah, definitely not good enough. And then just to finish it off, to illustrate what we've said all along about the lack of dynamic and athleticism play in the back end. If you remember, right before half, this is big. Right after the Ringo penalty is when Dak hits Cooks on that 30-yard post between Bradbury and I think it was Sidney Brown at that point. Now that's just, again, he had time to make a throw. What do we always talk about with cover one, right? Seams are open, seams are there. So Dak looks one side, throws to Cooks, and I don't know. There are teams that play cover 3 well because they have really good remember the Seattle Seahawks when they Gus Bradley cover 3? Like you couldn't throw a deep post. You couldn't throw a deep post against them. The linebackers were taking drops too fast. The safeties would get you. The front four would rush you with Michael Bennett or Cliff Averill. Nah, not this team. Cover 3, that's a zone. I can beat it. I got 3 seconds to throw. So that's where things need to change. If Adam, they can, and it's got to start with the front four. It really will have to. Oh, by the way, they're not doing as much stunting anymore. I was confused by that too. That used to work.
Got to do more. Yeah, they got to do more.
All right.
They got to win.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We will cover this game coming up even more so against the Seahawks in our. Well, we'll do a Friday pod that'll come out Friday, and then maybe we'll have something Monday morning if things change. If we need to have some last minute intel, we can do something there. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds. Be sure to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at phlsportsnation.com and on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation.